Now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining today's session. We're really excited to have you with us today. We're going to be, we're going to be talking about supporting high density BYOD, talking to the manager of the IT network at Georgetown Schools. That's Donnie. Donnie, are you on the call?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, thank you so much. Good to have you with us. Let me maximize this here, and for some reason, I am having issues with my PowerPoint. We may just leave it like this, guys. For some reason, it wants to go into a presentation mode. So here's the agenda for today. What we're going to do is go through and give a brief introduction to cloud networking, to the Cisco Meraki solution, why you would want to consider us, and then we're going to dive into the case study, talking to Georgetown, talking to Donnie. That is the sort of meat of the sessions where I want to spend a lot of time there and in the demo. So Donnie has graciously offered to allow us to demo the Georgetown Independent School District's network. So we'll actually look at his network and go through the Cisco Meraki equipment there and the deployments there. So that is fantastic. And then we will it says Q&A, but what I'd like to do is actually encourage everybody to submit questions either to me or to Donnie throughout the session. I have two great colleagues with me, Helena and Tanya, here to help answer any and all questions that you have. Just submit those in the Q&A box of your GoToWebinar control panel. What I'm going to try to do is actually use these questions to kind of guide our chats. When we're talking to Donnie about the Georgetown deployment, we'll be using your questions to sort of frame the conversation. So please type away and ask those. And a little bit of house cleaning before we get started. I'm excited to announce that we have free access points for the qualified IT professionals on the call today. So these are 11N access points. We'll throw in a 3-year cloud management license with it as well, so it'll be fully operational, yours to keep and use however you choose. And all of the wireless features and functionality that we go over today are, of course, available to you with that free access point. So the only thing we ask is that you do call us to confirm your shipping information. We don't want to send the access point to the wrong address, so please reach out to us. There should be some contact information for your Cisco Meraki rep in a reminder email sent to you about today's session. All right, so a little bit about Cisco Meraki. For those of you who may not be familiar with us, Meraki used to be its own company. In fact, we were founded in 2006 by a research team from MIT, and while at MIT, they were working on a project called the RoofNet project, and it was called that because they were literally climbing on top of Cambridge apartment building rooftops, affixing wireless access points to them, and then trying to figure out how to manage those over the internet. And so that technology from that project became the foundation of Meraki, the company. So we started out making cloud-managed wireless access points. We branched out. We have 4 product lines currently. So we make the wireless APs. We also make security appliances, the MX line of security appliances. Those are unified threat management boxes that do everything from intrusion prevention, content filtering, firewalling, et cetera, et cetera. We also make access and aggregation switches, the MS line of switches, and we have a systems manager, which is our mobile device management for iOS, Androids, Macs, and PCs. Everything we make is designed to be 100% cloud managed. So from anywhere in the world, from any internet accessible device, you can log in to the Meraki Dashboard and manage all of your equipment and all of your networks. Now, Cisco took note of this, sort of thrilled with our technology. They acquired us at the end of 2012, so we're proud to say we're the new cloud networking group within Cisco. We are committed to all 4 of the product lines that I just mentioned, and we're seeing spectacular growth. We are one of, if not the fastest growing BU within Cisco, and we're just gaining steam and plowing right ahead in research and development and innovation across all 4 of these product lines. Now, we also have a solution that's actually well suited to a bunch of different verticals. So you'll find us everywhere from professional services to healthcare, retail, finance, and then, of course, education. I wanted to throw in a couple of examples of clients that we have that trust us with their networks. It's not a comprehensive list by any stretch, but just to kind of show you the range and the breadth and the depth of different types of schools that are using the Meraki solution. We also are definitely open to having any of you reach out to us and ask for customer references. A lot of our current customers love to talk about Meraki, so if you want to reach out to any of these guys or want to get a reference for a deployment at a school, let us know. We'd be happy to put you in touch with someone who can speak to you about their Meraki experience. So I just want to highlight sort of an overview of how the Meraki solution works. So like I said, we make access points, switches, security appliances, and mobile device management, and all of these are 100% cloud managed. So what do I mean by that? Well, the gear, the access point, the switches, for example, the security appliances will sit on site at your schools. So your campuses, wherever they may be, your main offices, things like that, possibly at homes if you're orchestrating a teleworker deployment, and the Meraki equipment will initiate a secure connection back to our cloud. And by cloud, I mean our data centers that are hosted all over the world, and that connection is secure and it's small. It's secure, it's encrypted twice, once with proprietary technology and encryption, and then again using SSL, and it tends to be a small connection. It averages about 1 kilobit per second per device, and that's because we're using what we call an out-of-band control plane. That simply means that we don't see or store end-user data. That goes wherever it was intending to go. All we're collecting are the management and the monitoring statistics we need to present the information that you're going to see in the dashboard. So things like the number and types of client devices, the applications being used, bandwidth consumption statistics, the health and status and connectivity of your Meraki equipment, that sort of thing. Now, there's some true benefits to this cloud architecture. I do want to highlight security. So for us, right, again, not only do we have the out-of-band control plane, but the backend, the data center architecture is incredibly secure. Now, you don't, with our solution, you don't need to deploy controllers or redundant controllers at all, right? This is all cloud hosted and cloud managed. You can think of it as a sort of a cloud controller, which is incredibly secure. So those data centers are SSAE 16 certified. They undergo daily penetration testing by McAfee. We ourselves are PCI level 1 compliant. So anyone processing credit card data, for example, can be rest assured that we're compliant for that. And we have customers that have built PCI and HIPAA compliant networks using our gear. The architecture is also incredibly scalable. So if you are managing tens or hundreds of campuses or deployments, it's very, very easy to get up and running with Meraki gear. We actually support true zero-touch deployment. You can literally pre-configure all your Meraki equipment before it's ever been plugged into power, ever been plugged into the internet. Have those pieces of equipment drop shipped to your various campuses. Someone just needs to plug them in. They'll grab their configuration settings from the cloud and run with it. And again, because you don't need to buy controllers or redundant controllers, there's no sort of traditional limitations around the number of devices, for example, the number of APs that you can deploy, where literally we can grow and shrink with your needs. And then there's built-in reliability. So there's high availability built into our data centers. We have a high service level agreement for uptime, 99.99%. And we can talk about this more if there are questions. But if you lose connectivity to the internet, your network will continue to operate with its last known configuration. So your wireless networks will continue to broadcast. If you're authenticating to local Active Directory servers or radio servers, for example, that should still work for file and print, et cetera, et cetera. And we can talk about what would happen in a scenario like that and how you can perhaps back out of it if you've misconfigured your gear. But just to let you know, your network doesn't die immediately if you lose WAN connectivity. So if you have any questions about the security or want to know more about our data centers and how those are set up, I highly encourage you to check out that URL at the bottom of your screen there. That is meraki.cisco.com/trust. We try to be as transparent as possible and so put up our privacy policies and security statistics and things like that up there. So I would definitely check that out. Okay. The other thing I would just say and highlight, while you're thinking through this, if you are intrigued, if I had to pick only 3 sort of bucket reasons why you should choose Cisco Meraki for a K-12 environment, these would be them. First and foremost, and you'll see this in the demo, the intuitive centralized management. It's literally second to none. Like I said, anywhere in the world you have internet from any internet accessible device, you can log in, view all your networks, get immediate health and connectivity status information. It's very intuitive to click around and get from one network to another, from one device to another, from one client to another. There's built-in tools, so live troubleshooting and diagnostic tools built right into the dashboard so you can remotely manage your gear, and you can see everything in one place. So if you have wireless and switching and security from us and mobile device management from us, you just log into one place. Everything's right there at your fingertips. There's also a lot of flexibility built in to the architecture, as well as support for a distributed type of environment. So if you have more than one campus or school that you're trying to manage, like I said before, we make it very easy to deploy Meraki equipment and to view it. And then the visibility and control. So I'm gonna just leave this to the demo because you'll see this once we get up and running. So that brings me to the best part of our presentation today. This is going to be our fireside chat with Donnie Bruton, the Director of Technology for Georgetown. Donnie, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Fantastic. I was wondering if you, for the benefit of everybody on the call, if you could just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your role, about Georgetown, and sort of what challenges you were facing that led you to a Meraki solution.
Certainly. We are a medium-sized district. We're about 25 miles north of Austin. So we've got some neighbors that are much larger than us, but we're definitely a growing district. Lots of technology in Austin, so a lot of our parents work for various technology companies, so they have a high expectation of what the technology that their students should be using, what that technology should be, and about their ability to get access to it. So we've got about 10,600 students. As it states there, we are growing at about 3% a year. Very small group of IT support staff. So that was probably one of the biggest things that led us to look at Meraki was the ability to support a large rollout of wireless with a very small group of people to support it.
Okay, fantastic. Were there any specific challenges that you were facing with your old architecture that were sort of deal breakers for you?
Really, the main we had gotten to a point where the old equipment we were you guys are owned by Cisco now, so I think I can say this. We were a Cisco shop before. The equipment was just getting old and really needed to be replaced, and we also didn't have the density that we needed. We were starting to see a huge explosion, I would say, of mobile devices. Lots of laptops, iPads were coming on board quicker than we could, almost quicker than we could get them unpacked. So really we had an old wireless infrastructure that needed to be not only replaced, but we needed to add to it to be able to support the type of density that we were seeing coming.
Okay, fantastic. One question I always like to ask is, when you were going out and you were looking for solutions, right, to address all of these needs, and you heard about Meraki, was there anything about us that initially concerned you that you were able to resolve either through an evaluation or through talking to somebody, or something that you thought might have any FUD or that sort of thing that was resolved for you?
Yes, no, I can actually speak to that very well. We did an initial evaluation. We saw the product. I don't remember at a trade show or someplace, and thought, wow, that looks really looks like that could be really a very useful product for us. But being in the business that I am in, and as long as I've been, we always kind of have our doubts about can things be as good as they seem.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually did some extensive testing. We ordered some access points. We deployed those. We've done the same. We also use Meraki switches now. We purchased those. We did lots and lots of testing. Any issues that we had, we spoke with the Meraki engineers, and we're just really impressed with the product. But even more so with the support that we received. The engineers knew their product.
Mm-hmm.
The minor issues that we actually came up with, they were usually able to resolve within hours. So and just we're always there for us to get us through that. So we did a lot of testing just to make sure, does this work? We were also lucky. We had we have a DAEP, which is basically where some of our students who are incarcerated go.
Mm-hmm.
They were looking for a wireless. They basically had no wireless but wanted to implement. So we were able to put Meraki at their location and basically have a working test bed for, I'm trying to remember, 6 months or maybe a
Mm-hmm.
year before we did our big rollout. So we were able to kick the tires and really make sure that the product worked as advertised.
Fantastic. That's a great story. So we want to kind of pivot a little bit and talk about your deployment. Can you sort of tell us how this process worked for you? Like, how long did the deployment take? What did you end up deploying? How easy or hard was it to get set up?
Sure. Well, I went to a board meeting that I believe was in about April, and found out that we were going to be doing BYOD. So, and after my shock wore off, had a conversation with my superintendent, about what we needed to do with our infrastructure to make that successful. And obviously, with our aging wireless and with the limited amount of a wireless, we decided to deploy an access point to every secondary classroom. So from 6th grade to 12th grade, we were going to deploy an access point in every classroom. So we immediately went out. We were able to work with our cabling vendor, because you have to have cables to every classroom. And we deployed, we're able to order the switches and the access points, and we had those deployed and ready to go. I'm trying to remember, I think by late July.
Okay.
So from April to late July, it's a pretty good sized project to get turned around that quickly. But it was a very simple process. The access points, we knew immediately when they were installed, because they would show up as active in the control panel. So it was just a very easy process. Even we had very few staff to do that, and luckily had some very helpful subcontractors to help us with the cabling and some of the other installation.
Oh, fantastic. And for the benefit of folks on the call, if you're not familiar with us, definitely encourage you to check out our website for the models and such that we offer on the wireless and the switching side. But we do indoor and outdoor access points, 11N, 11AC access points. And our switches, of course, we've got layer 2 and layer 3 switches, access and aggregation switches. So I'm going to just take a quick second and look at some of the questions and see if we have anything from the audience to date. We're getting a lot of questions. This is great. We have one question for you, Donnie. Roughly how many students are serviced by a single AP? I guess you said one AP per classroom. So roughly how many kids do you have in a classroom?
Right, that's a good question. Generally speaking, it can be up to 30. We have seen, though, in practice well over 70 devices. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean students, because lots of our kids carry multiple devices. But we've seen well over 70 devices connected to an AP, and have, that doesn't mean that everything's working optimally at that point, but we haven't seen a whole lot of complaints about that. We do limit our deployment. We limit the students to only one device per student. So if they connect with the second device, it kicks them off with the other one. But that's a change we made at an upper level to basically limit the number of devices that would connect and interfere.
Okay, fantastic. There's another question from the audience for you, which is what kind of authentication are you using for either school-owned devices or guests or both?
Yes. We have two different schemes that we follow for our guest network. We actually use the built-in Meraki authentication, which is, I'm sure we'll see that at some point, but basically we go in and set up an email address and add that person as a guest. For the BYOD, we are actually using Radius that is authenticated against our Active Directory. So all of our kids, all of our staff have Active Directory accounts, so that's how they're authenticated. Two-level, it's something that already exists, so it's very easy for us to have set up, and it's automated, so as people are hired and leave, it automatically adds and erases. But the other side is it also lets us see if someone's doing something they shouldn't be. It very easily lets us see who is that authenticated user to at least follow up and make sure that we can maybe correct that behavior.
Okay. And then there's one question for me, which I'll take, which is, will there be a recording of this session? The answer is yes. We are recording this session, and we will provide that recording to all of you later, so have no fear. Okay, so I wanted to highlight some of the benefits that you've had with Meraki. I was wondering if you could perhaps walk us through sort of the main benefits that you see, and then there's this awesome little bullet at the end here about how you recovered 2 stolen iPads using our mobile device management product. So definitely want to talk about that.
Sure. Well, I mean, probably the best thing is that all of our access points show up in one place. We're able very easily to see if an access point is having issues. It immediately in the dashboard, will show up as I believe yellow or red if it's not connected at all. So it's very simple for us to determine if there's an issue just by looking at the dashboard. We are able to go in and sort traffic by the amount of traffic. I'm trying to remember now. I think it's megabits. I don't remember the exact scale that's being used there, but we're able to rank users based on the amount of traffic. We can also go see what sites they're going to. So we can see if someone is maybe, it's very obvious if someone is streaming a lot because their usage will be very high. We've also at least I know recently, and 2 of my network guys are here, so they'll shake their heads at me if I'm wrong. But we're able to track down. We filter for our students to try to make sure they don't go to the wrong sites, but a lot of times they will use VPN connections to get around that. Well, very easy for us to track down those VPNs because usually those are some of the higher usage sites that show up. So that's really opened up a lot of visibility for us. We can track that down very easily. It's not always quite so easy to block it, but at least we're able to find that pretty easily and try to prevent kids getting around the filter. Right. Going down to the system manager, I can go down to that and talk to that real quickly. It's probably been more than 2 iPads, but the visibility that the product gives us into the device, into its location, into the network that it's connected to has allowed us to work with police. I believe we were dealing with police officers in other locations and actually give them information that allowed us to recover some stolen devices. So that was pretty impressive and for us, and we were able to see that, yep, the device is still on. Yes, it's connecting. This is the IP address. Oh, look, that's in Dallas. We're not anywhere near Dallas. So that's that was a pretty. It was good for me to be able to go, tell my boss that, hey, look what we were able to do.
Mm-hmm. Were there any sort of surprising bandwidth consumption or app usage statistics that you weren't expecting that you saw, or?
I don't think so. I mean, I think overall I'm very surprised just by the total bandwidth
Mm-hmm.
when I go in and look at that. But overall, not really. When we look at, we have a lot of Apple devices, so obviously a lot of our bandwidth is Apple. Those devices checking in, getting updates, so forth and so on. We have uh, a lot of traffic that goes to our internal servers. So, that's really. I don't think there was anything that was really that out of the ordinary.
Okay. So we have a question from a member of the audience for you, which is, do you throttle sites such as YouTube, iTunes, streaming music, video sites?
On the web, on the wireless, we absolutely do. We limit that. I don't remember off the top of my head. I believe it's per device. We limit. We have a limit for the amount of bandwidth that they can use when going. It's mainly for streaming sites like YouTube and we pretty much block most music streaming. But a lot of video sites are open, and we do limit that so that someone is not completely logging an access point.
Okay. And you had mentioned before, I think, filtering. Are you using the Cisco Meraki MX security appliance at all for content filtering?
We have a third-party product for that. Now, we do use the MX device at our DAEP. They have a very small population out there, so that device works perfectly, and they're very happy with that. We were able to implement that device and then give them access to it, so they handle all of the filtering, and for that, it's less than 50 kids, I believe, that they have out there.
Okay.
But it allows us to support them without actually having to be completely responsible for it.
I see. It looks like we're getting a bunch of questions too around bandwidth. So what sort of bandwidth are you seeing coming into your schools, or your entire district, I guess? And then do you have any sort of concerns about bandwidth tuning if you're using multiple wireless SSIDs?
Sure, we do use multiple SSIDs. What we've done to this point, I can speak to the bandwidth. We currently pay for 400 megabit of bandwidth for the entire district. That's shared equally across the entire district at this point. That may change in the future, but at this point, that's how that is meted out. We usually see usage between 200 to 300 megabit per second is pretty standard usage. We really haven't had, and of course, as soon as I say this, I'll jinx myself, but we really haven't had any days where we've maxed out on bandwidth that we've seen. And that's kind of a combination of, it's probably a combination of the filter, some of the metering that we do, and just policies that we have in place.
Okay. So I wanna move on and just hit this last slide before we get to the demo, because I do want to spend a bit of time going over your network and showing folks on the call what it actually looks like to run a Meraki solution. Just wondering if you could maybe speak about what your future plans are, and if there's anything else that you would want to add. If you wanted the audience to know anything about Meraki, if you could tell them one or two things about your experience with us, what would that be?
Sure. Well, as far as, I'll kind of hit future plans first. We're looking at the AC access points. When we were doing this rollout, it's been nearly 2 years ago now. Was basically the ruler of the roost at that point. So, but we are starting to look at AC for future buildings, for any places, any locations where we're going to add density. We are hopefully in the very near future going to go ahead and roll out an access point in every elementary classroom. We're seeing needs in those classrooms, not so much on the BYOD side, but lots of our campuses, our Title I campuses, they've purchased a lot of iPads and other wireless devices, and so we're starting to see a lot of strain in those areas where we only have one access point for every maybe 3 to 5 classrooms. So the goal there will be to go ahead and increase the density in that area.
Okay. And then if you if there's anything else that you wanted to highlight about Meraki for folks on the call, let me know.
I would say overall has just been the just overall simplicity of installing, implementing, and managing the devices. The best part of Meraki by far is the management interface. It allows me, my network guys don't like to give me a whole lot of access, and I don't blame them. So I'm probably the least technical person in our group, but I do have access to get in there and look at bandwidth, and if someone calls and says, hey, we're having an issue, I can get in and very easily see what the issue is, where it is. With some of our other gear that was a little more complicated, that wasn't quite so easy. It does allow us to manage a very large network with a very limited number of staff. So that's probably the biggest thing that I can say.
All right, fantastic. Thank you. So folks on the call, please continue to send in your questions. We're here answering them. What I'm going to do now is actually switch over and demo Donnie's network. He's graciously, again, agreed to let us do that. So hopefully some of your questions might be answered as we go through the demo, but if there's anything that you want to see or that I don't get to, definitely let us know, and we'll try to address those as well as we can as we go through. So let me log in here. And this is what any of you would do if you had Meraki equipment. You'd basically open up a web browser, go to dashboard.meraki.com, and you'd log in to your network. Let me see if I can. So Donnie, does this look like you? Oops. Let me get back where we were here. I think
yes, that's us.
All right, good deal. So first and foremost, what happens when you log in to a Meraki dashboard is basically you're presented with sort of an overview slide like this, where you can actually go in and see where in the world you have devices deployed and immediately get status information. So we're seeing green, healthy here for all of the 4 networks in Texas, for example. I can come up and get summary statistics about my network. So like Donnie, I think, alluded to earlier, you can sort by usage, sort by clients. You could tag your networks if you wanted to and label them a certain way, and then search by tag. And you're getting a lot of information about sort of the network health and connectivity, if there were any sort of reboots or down equipment at any point in time over the last week, and sort of summary statistics for a given week, as well as like total number of devices and offline devices and things like that. And so you can actually go in and search for a network, or just drill down. You could click in to the little icons themselves to get to a network, or you can dive right in to a network this way. So maybe I'll start with wireless, because a lot of folks are interested in wireless. So when you're looking at a wireless network, there's a couple of things to note. First of all of our equipment, whether it's an access point, a switch, a security appliance, is going to have a page that looks similar to the one you're looking at now. This is sort of a client's overview page. So basically what it's saying is, for a given network, for a given time frame, and we're looking at a week, but we could of course drill down as detailed as the last 2 hours, or zoom out to the last month, we're getting summary statistics about things like bandwidth consumption, application consumption, and the number and types of client devices that are connecting to a network. So let me actually, and Donnie, if at any point you want me to highlight something or have a story or any sort of input, feel free to jump in. So for example,
absolutely.
For this particular network, for the last week, right, we had roughly 8,200 client devices connect. Here they all are. We're seeing devices that are currently online now, devices that were online at some point in the last week but are offline at the moment. We're seeing wireless clients because, again, we're connected to a wireless network. But if we had sort of a combined view, and we would see wired clients as well. And you don't have to do anything to get this visibility. You just deploy the Meraki equipment. We have what's called sort of client device fingerprinting. So you're able to come in and do things like say, all right, well, who's online right now and who's an iPad? So right now we have 585 iPads that are online right now on that network. We could look for, devices by operating system if we wanted to, maybe drill down and try to see if there's any sort of legacy operating systems if we're concerned from a security standpoint. You can search by the manufacturer, so maybe we only want to find Samsung devices. Basically, you can search by most of the columns that you see here: the description of the device, the operating system, manufacturer, IP, MAC, user if you're integrating with some sort of authentication service. And again, this is just innate. It's built into our equipment. We're constantly identifying new devices as they come online. And similarly, we do something what we call application fingerprinting as well. So this is where you can actually come in and see where your bandwidth is going, right? So we're seeing these patterns of daytime usage, probably night, day, weekend perhaps. You can actually expand this out, very quickly see where your bandwidth is going. So you can sort by usage if you want. And see sort of the top consumers of bandwidth on your network. And right away, if any of this looks concerning to you or you want to get more information, maybe miscellaneous web, it's a little bit of a sort of a generic category. If you want to drill down into it, you can, and when this loads, you'll see a little bit more information about what we mean. So by miscellaneous web, we mean TCP traffic over port 80, and there's more information about it if you'd like to click there. But we're also seeing the top consumers of this particular application. So the top 30, initially top 30 devices contributing to this rule. So, if this was, say, Netflix, you'd see the top consumers of Netflix here. And right now we're just seeing the top web consumers. And we can actually, this is something you can enable or disable depending on your privacy preferences, but if you do enable this, you can actually see the specific websites and destinations that these client devices are going to. Now, they're obviously blurred out for privacy reasons because I am not an admin on Donnie's network, but he would probably be able to go in and actually see which websites these are, and you can actually see the active time spent per client there. So, if this is not necessarily a school-oriented website and you're sort of worried about the amount of time being spent there, it's very easy to then take this information and create a policy around it. Likewise, with all of these clients here or in the previous page that I showed you, it's very easy to dive right into a client device and get more information about it. So this particular one is offline at the moment, but we can see when it was last seen. It was last seen today, and it looks like Donnie has uploaded floor plan views into Dashboard, so you can actually get a sense for which vicinity of a building. Which vicinity of a building this particular client was in, based on where he's placed APs on his floor plan view. And you would actually see real-time signal strength if this client was connected. Actually, let's see if we can find a client that is connected, just to sort of give you a view. So maybe this one. So you can see this client is connected. You can see which wireless network it's connected to, which access point it's connected to. You're getting real-time statistics on signal strength. Here's real-time statistics or aggregate statistics, I should say, on usage and bandwidth. And you can actually see, if you click this, more details about a particular individual client device. So again, this might be the kind of information you need to go in and apply a policy. So if you wanted to apply a policy at a device level, very easy to do. So Donnie has some policies already defined here. You can even go in and apply policies by SSID, depending on whether or not you want certain policies to apply if someone is connected to a certain network or not. You're also getting really good statistics about sort of the network. Are they getting the right IP address? Do you want to ping the device, make sure it's online? You can even come in and do things like if you have to troubleshoot this device, go in and run a packet capture perhaps. So some tools that is integrated into our dashboard is the packet capture. You can actually stream packet capture content to Cloud Shark. So if you wanted to do that and then provide a URL to your IT staff, someone can follow up, check out the packet capture. It's basically like having Wireshark but in the cloud, or if you prefer to actually download a PCAP file for Wireshark, you can do that as well. So lots of sort of integrated functionality there. And I just want to highlight, if you click this access point, or you go in and you look at all of your access points that are deployed for a given network again, you can see here they all are listed out, and you can get information about their status, so which access points are online and green and healthy, and see stats on connectivity again for the last week for a given access point. But you can actually kind of dive into an access point and get information about its health and status individually. So all of our equipment, whether it's an access point, a switch, a security appliance, is going to have a page similar to this, in the sense that you're going to come in and be able to sort of log in, view the health and connectivity of the device, see what kind of device it is. In this case, because it's wireless, see which SSIDs are enabled, get information about sort of its IP addressing and things like that. But the thing that I want to highlight is this section here on live tools. So these are sort of the built-in diagnostic troubleshooting tools built right into the dashboard to help you view and troubleshoot and diagnose issues with your gear. So if you're having some interference, maybe you want to come in and check channel utilization, see what's happening, or if you have a particular client that's having trouble connecting to a network, you can actually see where that AP is if you've placed it on a floor plan view, direct someone to it, or start a troubleshooting process. So very, very useful information. Now, showing you the visibility into the device itself, into the sort of overview of the network and kind of where traffic is going and what applications are being consumed. How do you actually translate that into control? So you can actually very easily come in and create what we call our group policies. Now you can set site-wide policies, so like SSID-wide policies, or group policies that can be applied to specific users or groups of users or devices or groups of devices. And so Donnie has some already listed. I'd pretend like I'm making a new one. Let's say we saw, I don't know, like a lot of Netflix traffic or something, or you need to sort of create a bandwidth restriction policy. You could come in and name your policy. You can actually come in and decide when you want the policy to be enabled. Maybe it's only 8 to 5 on weekdays, and you don't really care what happens after that. Let's hide that. And then you can actually come in and play around with the firewall and traffic shaping rules. So basically, we have the ability with our access points and with our security appliances, you can come in and you can set your layer 3 firewall rules if you want, based on protocol and source and destination and port numbers and things like that. But remember, we have that incredible visibility into applications. So you can actually come in and say, I actually want to block peer-to-peer traffic. Or maybe it's just BitTorrent that's causing me some grief. And maybe I don't want to actually outright block certain applications, but I want to throttle or prioritize them in some way. That's where traffic shaping takes place. So you could say, remember, we said something like Netflix, I think maybe was eating up a bunch of bandwidth. So we could say maybe Netflix and iTunes and let's just say Google Video were causing us grief. What we can do is we can say, you know what, we're going to have a limit. So we'll just throttle that down to a stingy 250 kilobits per second. So what have I done? So for this policy, which is a bandwidth restriction policy, and it only applies on 8 to 5 on weekdays to various devices, basically what I'm saying is all BitTorrent will be blocked for clients or devices receiving this policy, and these 3 applications are going to be throttled immediately to 250 kilobits per second. If I actually wanted to prioritize these applications instead, it's as simple as bumping that up to unlimited and saying ignore limits. So then you can just go out and apply those policies. It's very, very easy and simple to do. And I just want to highlight one other thing before we maybe move on to switching, is just to show you how easy it is to set up like guest Wi-Fi or SSIDs. So all of our access points support up to 15 unique SSIDs. You go in, you define them, and then you come into this access control page. And with the access control page, what you're going to do is you're going to select an SSID that you've defined. So maybe we can pick guest, and this is where you're going to come in and set up your association requirements, your authentication requirements. Of course, you can have an open network, or you can lock it down with either a pre-shared key or some sort of authentication that has to happen. We also provide integrated splash page functionality. So if you want to either have a click-through splash page with terms and conditions, or you want to provide a splash page that will let you authenticate via any of these sort of methods, Active Directory, Radius, LDAP, etc., you can do that. We can even prevent users or clients from connecting to a wireless network unless they have installed a systems manager profile. So again, our mobile device management profile, so you can do that. And you can actually come in and do things like say, all right, well, for this particular wireless network, it's a BYOD type environment. I don't know what people are going to be bringing onto my network, but I know if it's an Android, I want to give it one policy. And if it's maybe we want to block BlackBerries because we're not expecting BlackBerries on our network, and I don't know, iPads will get some other kind of policy. So you can actually do things like that. So you don't even need to know who's bringing what onto the network. You know that if it's a particular kind of device, it's getting a particular kind of policy. Now, if you wanted to create secure isolated guest wireless in like 3 clicks, all you would do is go select your guest wireless network, leave it as an open network because it's a guest network, decide if you want a splash page or not, but literally all you have to do is put your SSID in what we call NAT mode. If you do this, what happens is the access point will begin to issue isolated Class A IP addresses. So what this means is that clients connecting to that guest SSID or that particular SSID that you have in NAT mode, those clients won't be able to see or speak to each other, and they won't be able to see or speak to your local area network and access resources there, but they will be able to get out to the internet. So it's just a very easy, very quick way to lock down an SSID and provide that kind of internet-only access. Really quickly, I just want to move over to just to show you what switching looks like, since Donnie is deploying switches in his schools, and then we can pull out and answer some more questions. Let's see if we can move to a switch. And I apologize if our wireless is a little slow here. In marketing, we're the guinea pigs for all the new wireless, so we sometimes have issues when we present. But let's see. So here's a switching network, and you can see when you dive into the switch network, you're sort of showing the same kind of page that you saw before, only you're seeing it from a wired view. And I just want to sort of highlight very quickly. Similar to the access points, you can dive in, look at any particular switch, get information about it. So this is one of our layer 2 8-port switches. See information about what's behind various ports and sort of the status and uptime and connectivity of various ports. And you can see the live tools are slightly different than what you saw with the access point. They're more switch specific. Things that you can do like perform a remote cable test, check the forwarding table, cycle a port, wake a client, that kind of thing. I would say the killer feature of our switches, if I had to say anything, let's see. So Donnie has something like 69 switches deployed in this particular network here. If I go to my switch ports, all ports across all of those 69 switches, regardless of where the switches are deployed, regardless of the model of switch, are going to be displayed here in this switch ports page. I'm going to guess it's probably a couple hundred, oh no, it's a couple thousand switch ports. So over 3,100 switch ports. Here they all are. Again, you can tag your switch ports. You're getting information about the switch and the actual port number. We have this concept that leverages the cloud. It's unique to Meraki, and it makes managing switches incredibly easy and incredibly powerful, and we call it virtual stacking. So what do I mean by that? It means that basically you can select switch ports, again, regardless of where they are physically housed, regardless of what model switch we're talking about, and then configure them en masse. So for example, if you wanted to look only for switch ports 1 through 15 across all of your switches, You can come in here, type 1 through 15. You can see that we've now narrowed it down to 980 switch ports that meet that criteria. Maybe you're looking only for trunk ports. I don't know if you have any like this. Let's see. Give it a second. Yep, you've got 204 switch ports across your entire switching fabric that meet this criteria. Well, we can see maybe if they're connected to MR access points. Do you have any? Let's see. And just give it a second. Yeah, so you have 148 switch ports that meet that criteria. So these are ports numbered 1 through 15 that are trunk that are connected to Meraki access points. Now I could select them all and hit edit. If these were the switch ports that I wanted to operate on, I could come in and I could name or tag the ports, turn them on or off, enable or disable things like spanning tree and PoE. I can decide whether or not to apply a port schedule. So similar to what we saw with the policies that we were applying, you'd have a little sort of sliding bars where you could say, you know what, this port is going to be on and available to receive traffic only on certain days of the week at certain times. I could decide if it's going to be a trunk or an access port, and if it's an access port, I can actually come in and do things like say, are there going to be access policies? Do you have to authenticate in some way before you can pass traffic through the switch port? Am I going to assign VLANs or voice VLANs? And you can see that if I made these changes, I would be updating those 148 ports. So it's very, very powerful and easy and intuitive to use. And there's a bunch of different commands that you can use to winnow down a list of ports. You just hit that help link and you'll see, I think it's probably something like 20 different commands that you can use to find the switch ports that you need. So that's sort of switching in a nutshell. I'm going to back out because we are getting a little pressed for time. So I'm going to switch back to the presentation, run through the last little bit, and we'll get to some questions. So that was the live demo. Hopefully it gave you a sense for how powerful and intuitive it is to use Meraki equipment, particularly if you're doing remote site management. So I just want to highlight again, we have 4 product lines. We highlighted the wireless and the switching today, but of course we do have security appliances. We have mobile device management for iOS, Androids, Macs, and PCs. So if you're interested in any of this, I would encourage you to check out our free eval program. We make all of our equipment available for free evaluation. There's literally no risk to you because we pay the shipping both ways. So you can request various configurations of Meraki equipment, deploy it in your own school, which I encourage you to do, and run us against the competition, see what you think. So the next steps, check out that free eval. I'd also encourage you guys to check out our blog. If you don't know that we have a blog, it is a phenomenal resource. We post tons of how-to articles. Every time we have new features or new products, we post about those there. Lots of great information. A lot of people use it as sort of one of those first step help resources. And we have links in our blog to other resources as well that might be useful for you. And then, of course, you can always contact us. So I'm going to leave this slide up. I'm going to pause for a second and ask Tanya and Helena whether or not we had any additional questions to answer. So give me 1 second and I will be right back. Okay, so we're getting a ton of questions, which is fantastic. Looks like we have a lot of questions about the floor plan view for the wireless, which is awesome. Let me switch back to that and explain how that works. And Donnie will tell you whether or not that was a painful operation or not. But essentially, for the wireless, if you have a floor plan of your office space, we allow you to upload that floor plan onto the into Dashboard. So essentially, let's actually go in and look at. Let's pick an access point.
You should be able to go to the Georgetown ISD network for that.
Maybe this guy or this one? This one.
That one right there. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Donnie. So if you click into an access point, or essentially you go into Maps and Floor Plan View, you can upload that image of your floor plan here. So you can hit edit floor plans, you can add them. You can see he's added a whole bunch of different floor plans here. And once you have the floor plans uploaded, when you're adding access points to the Meraki dashboard, you have the ability to place those access points on the floor plan view. And if you do that accurately, there's a couple of benefits. Let's just pick this access point to show you. For example, that particular access point, when placed on the map, will be highlighted. So if you have somebody calling in about connectivity issues and things like that, you can immediately go to the access point and see, okay, if this user is complaining and this user, is in the vicinity of this access point, the access point will alert if it's yellow or red. You might actually be able to see right away that there's an issue. The other thing is that, if you're trying to remotely direct somebody to a piece of Meraki equipment, you may need to be able to say, well, here's this access point, go down this hall, take a left, go into room, whatever this is. It should be up there on the wall. And in fact, I can blink the LEDs on the access point. So just to make sure that you're looking at the right one, I can send out a remote command so that all the little lights on the front of the access point blink, letting somebody know that it's actually the right one, and that you can do that with switching and security appliances as well. But it's very easy to set up, I think, and that's how you would deploy that. Let me check and see some other questions that we have. See, Donnie, are you using Systems Manager for mobile device management, or are you relying on the wireless primarily for that client visibility?
We do use Systems Manager for mobile device management.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Is that listed here? Right here, yeah?
It's under SM, Georgetown ISD-SM.
Okay, this guy. So let's actually take a look. We're having some questions about Systems Manager, and if I can demo that. So this is Systems Manager. Basically, you can see we can jump to it straight away just from looking at switches to looking at access points to looking at Systems Manager. And again, this is for iOS, Androids, Macs, and PCs, and you have a lot of the same search functionality, so you can easily see sort of if you have devices that are online or not, so iPads that are online. If you click into any of these devices, you're going to get a lot more granular information using Systems Manager. So way more detail, a couple of special commands and types of functionality that you can remotely pass to a mobile device, like selectively wiping it or locking it, that kind of a thing. We have the ability to push out apps to manage security and configuration settings. So if you wanted to, lock down particular components of a device, you can. And you can do this based on profiles. So you can group your devices, teacher iPads versus student iPads, that kind of thing. You select the grouping, and then you come in and decide what you want to restrict or not restrict. Everything from sort of the types of applications you can use to actual physical features on the device, like whether they can use the camera or FaceTime or actually access the iTunes store and purchase things. You can set passcode complexity requirements for a device if you want. You can set templates if you want to allow devices to automatically be able to join a network, especially if you have Meraki access points. It's very easy. You just select your network, you select your SSID that these devices should automatically join, and a slew of other features. Super, super easy to set up. Definitely encourage you guys to try it out if you're interested. Let me just take maybe one more question. If you asked a question and we didn't get to it, have no fear. We're collecting these and we'll be sending them out to your rep. So when you call to confirm your shipping information for your access point, we should have these and we'll get you some answers for that. Once you add a device to Systems Manager, does it ever disappear if, for instance, it goes offline for 6 months? That is a good question. I believe what it would show is as having not connected for 6 months. As long as the profile is still installed, I don't believe you necessarily ever lose it. It would show up here. Let's see if we can actually find one that's offline. So for example, these guys have been offline since August. So that last connected in August. So you can see that was quite a while ago. And you can see that was 4 months ago. So basically what would happen is you'd say, all right, here's the approximate location of this device 4 months ago, and here's the last known information that we had about it. Of course, it hasn't been online in a while, so it's not showing up, but you can actually see what's on it and go poke around and see what its known configuration was. All right, so I think we've hit the top of the hour. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Donnie, thank you so much for taking time today to talk us through your network and share your thoughts with us. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks everyone else for your attention and your great questions. Again, hopefully this was useful to you. We will post the recording of this session once we have finalized and processed it, so be on the lookout for that, and hope to see you guys again at a future webinar. Have a great rest of your day, and take care.